Hello everyone, this is the Two Peas in a Podcast, and I'm Davina.
And I'm Jamie.
And we're just two friends reading stories, cracking jokes, cracking up.
Just having fun, having conversations.
Yeah.
Because we think we're very entertaining.
Exactly, and now you're part of our conversation because we foster a parasocial relationship to with everyone online. Everyone. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are we doing today?
Yeah, today is the first episode in our journey of reading creepypasta stories. What we're reading today is Abandoned by Disney by the user Slimebeast. I've read this story before, but a long time ago in middle school, and I think Jamie read it recently.
Most recently,
between the two of us, so she knows what's going on.
This is a new experience for me. See, even though I was such a big fan of them in middle school, I read the most popular ones because, I'm not niche.
You're not quirky like me.
No, not at all.
I only read really underground creepypastas, like the Naughty List.
We'll get to that one later.
And that's called foreshadowing.
Okay, so with this one,
I think we can popcorn this,
line by line,
okay. Paragraph by paragraph.
Alright, so, Abandoned by Disney.
By Slimebeast.
Oh, shit. Okay. Near the beachside city of Emerald Isle, North Carolina, Disney began construction of Mowgli's Palace in the late 1990s. The concept was a jungle-themed resort with a large, you guessed it, palace in the center of the whole thing. Who would have guessed?
Mowgli's Palace was a controversial undertaking from the start. Disney bought a ton of high-priced land for the project, and there was actually a scandal surrounding some of the purchases. The local government claimed eminent domain on people's homes, then turned around and sold the properties to Disney. At one point, a home that had just been constructed was immediately condemned with little to no explanation.
Construction was complete. Visitors actually stayed at the resort. The surrounding communities were flooded with traffic and the usual annoyances associated with an influx of lost and irate tourists.
Then it all just stopped.
Disney shut it down and nobody knew what the hell to think, but they were pretty happy about it. Disney's loss was pretty hilarious. and wonderful to a large group of folks who didn't want this in the first place.
I honestly didn't give the place another thought since hearing it closed over a decade ago. I live maybe 4 hours from Emerald Island, so really I only heard about the rumblings and didn't experience any of it firsthand.
Then I read this article from someone who had explored the Treasure Island Resort and posted a whole blog about all the crazy shit he found there. Stuff just left behind, things smashed, defaced, probably ruined by the disgruntled former employees who lost their jobs.
Hell, the locals from all around probably had a hand in wrecking that place. People there felt just as angry about Treasure Island as folks here did about Mowgli's Palace.
This line here is reminding me of that John Mulaney line, where it was like, one of his classmates was one of the teacher's sons, and he threw a party at their house.
Oh yeah, and then he shit on the table.
Everybody decided we should just go over there and wreck the place. Okay.
Plus, there were rumors that Disney had released their aquarium stock into the local waters when they closed, including sharks.
Who wouldn't want to take a few swings at some merchandise after that? I love swimming at sharks.
What?
Have you seen that video where it's like, the animatronics they used in the fucking FNAF movie? I haven't watched it still, but it has real Springlegs in there, and then some guy
no fucking way.
Some guy actually put it on after revealing that. There's really something to be said about the way everybody takes media that are warning against something and then immediately make it real because, hey, it'll turn a profit in real life, right?
Inspired by the award-winning book, Don't Create the Doom Portal, we have created the Doom Portal.
It's so, the irony is so bleakly hilarious. The same thing happened with the fucking, Squid Game.
Over the course of that year, I did a lot of research at the Palace Resort.
The drive took me through an inordinately long corridor of overgrowth. Tropical plants that had run rampant and overpopulated the area mixed with the native species of flora that actually belonged there and had tried to reclaim the land.
I was in awe when I reached the front gates of the resort. Tremendous, monolithic, wooden gates or supports to either side looked like they must have been cut from a giant sequoias.
Hanging on the gate was a sheet of metal, some random scrap of hand-painted letters scrawled in black. Abandoned by Disney.
Roll credits.
Title drop. Clearly the handiwork of some past local or an employee who wanted to make some small protest.
The gates were open enough to walk through, but not drive, so grabbing my digital camera and the map, whose flip side showed a layout of the resort, I set off on foot. I approached the main building, the palace, only to find it's formatted as like
The palace.
the palace.
The palace.
Only to find the outside of the building covered in graffiti where the original paint hadn't peeled and chipped away. The front doors weren't just open, they had been taken off their hinges and were stolen. That's a metaphor for how unhinged this story is.
It only gets worse from here, folks.
Ba-da-ching!
Above the front doors were the gaping maw where they'd been. Someone had once again painted Abandoned by Disney. Title drop time is 2.
Yeah.
We could go to double credits now.
I wish I could tell you about all the awesome stuff I saw inside the palace. Forgotten statues, abandoned cash registered, a full-fledged secret society of homeless bums. But no.
Wow. The inside of the building was so stark, so bare, that I actually think people had stolen the molding off the walls. Seems like a good hobby to have.
Yeah.
Anything that was too big to steal, counters, desks, giant fake trees, they were all resting amid this empty echo chamber that amplified my every step like a slow rat-a-tat of a machine gun.
I checked the floor plan and headed to all the locations that might seem in any way interesting.
The kitchen was, as you'd imagine, an industrial food prep area with all the appliances in space, no expenses spared. Every glass surface was broken, every door knocked off its hinges, every metal surface kicked and dented. The entire place smelled like very old piss.
The huge freezer, not even remotely cool now, had row upon row of empty shelf space. Hooks hung from the ceiling, probably for hanging cuts of meat.
What?
I really hate that did our brains go to the same place.
I didn't. You stopped talking, and then I looked at you and you started laughing. My mind was like blank. You just stopped talking, and I just stopped thinking for a second. Good job, you.
Congrats. I'm very proud of myself.
Alright, where were we?
As I stood inside for a moment, I noticed that they were swaying.
Yeah. Okay. Each hook swung in a random direction, but their movements were so slow and small that it was almost impossible to see. I figured it had been caused by my footsteps, so I stopped one from swinging by clutching it in my fist, then carefully letting go, but within seconds it started to swing once more.
The bathrooms were in much the same state as the rest of the place. Just like the Treasure Island Resort, someone had methodically smashed each porcelain commode with coconuts and other implements. There was about a half-inch of rancid, stinking stagnant water on the floor, so I didn't stay there for very long.
But there's a lot of mosquitoes in there.
Mm-hmm.
What's odd is that
Your priorities are in the right order, God.
That's what I think every single time I see, like,
Water,
pools of water.
Still water described.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what's odd is that the toilets and the sinks and the bidets in the ladies' room, yes, I went there. Why are there only bidets in the ladies' room?
I don't know. Guys have butts. Men require bidets.
Way more than women.
Exactly. Arguably.
They were all dripping. They were all dripped, leaked, or just ran freely. Seemed to me they should have shut the water off long ago. Man, so much water wasted.
There were plenty of rooms in the resort, but naturally I didn't have any time to look through them all. The few I did peer into were similarly wrecked, and I didn't expect to find anything there. I thought there were actually a television or radio in one room, and as I really think I heard a quiet conversation coming out.
As I looked out the door, I noticed something interesting in the courtyard that I had apparently missed. Something that would give me at least one thing to show for all of my trouble, even if it was just a photograph.
There is a lifelike statue of a python, maybe 80 feet long, coiled up and sunning itself on a pedestal right in the center of the area. It was almost time for the sun to start setting, so the light fell onto the object in the perfect way for a photograph.
I approached the python and snapped a photo. Then I stood on my toes and snapped another. I moved closer again to get the detail of its face.
Slowly, casually, the python lifted its head, looked directly into my eyes, turned, and slithered off the pedestal, across the grass and into the trees.
All 80 feet of it, its headlong disappeared into the woods before its tail even left the sunning spot.
Disney had released all their exotic animals onto the grounds. Right there on my floor plan map was the reptile house. I should have known.
I was dumbfounded, just utterly stupefied.
Good job.
Is that how you pronounce it?
It is how you pronounce
Okay.
it.
My mouth must have been hanging open for the longest time before I came back down to earth and snapped it shut. I blinked a few times and backed away from where the snake had been back towards the house because, it's North Carolina.
It's North Carolina. Where native pythons live.
Is it?
I'm joking. I'm being sarcastic. Even though he was totally gone, I still wasn't taking any chances and backed my way into the building.
I took a few breaths and slaps to my own face to get myself right in the head again after that. Like, my guy, he just does not like snakes at all.
Yeah.
This is discrimination.
This is discrimination against Slytherins. I look
so these
Hey, would you like to slither in to my bed?
not on record, Davina.
the Tom Felton Riz.
No.
Yeah.
No, he wrote that book.
Oh,
You
yeah,
read
no,
it?
have you read it?
No, I saw it at something.
It's really fun.
You read it?
I haven't. I read someone read it.
And?
It's funny.
It's really funny?
It's really goofy.
As in, like, the content, or is he actually a good writer?
No, it's definitely ghostwritten. Like, there's no way he wrote that book. But, like, it's funny in the sense that, like, it would be a normal story about a kid growing up, and then he would just slide in a reference to Harry Potter because that's all he's known for. He'll be going on about, like, a totally random, like, a totally normal story, and he just put in, like, she was such a Gryffindor.
Oh my god.
It's so embarrassing.
How old is Tom Felton?
He's, like, 30.
So he's basically, like, a Disney adult, but Harry Potter only.
He's a Harry Potter adult.
Harry Potter adult.
The stairway led downward, probably ground level. Using my camera flash as a sort of improvised flashlight, I could read that the staircase ended in a metal mesh door with a padlock. A sign on the door, a real sign, read, "Mascots only."
This perked up my spirits a little bit for two reasons. One, a mascots only area would have definitely had some interesting stuff back in the day, right? And two, the padlock was still in place. Nobody's gone down there. Not the vandals, not the looters, nobody.
This was the one place I could actually explore and perhaps find something interesting to photograph or wantonly steal. The mascots only area was a startling and very welcome change from the rest of the building I'd seen. For one, every second or third fluorescent light overhead was illuminated, even though they flickered and faded randomly. Also, nothing had been stolen or broken, even if age and exposure were definitely taking their toll. It was like one of the post-apocalyptic movies where everything is left in a state of evacuation.
As I went further, desks and tables were knocked over, papers scattered and almost melded with the damp floor. Gross.
Yeah.
And a large carpet of mold was slowly
Ew.
overtaking the real rotting crimson floor covering.
Everything was just sort of squishy.
Interesting word usage.
Anything wood disintegrated. Anything wood disintegrated into mush when I applied even the least amount of force. And clothing items hanging on hooks in one of the rooms simply fell to moist threads if I tried to unhook them.
Oh, it's so
gross. Ew. Eventually, I reached a black and yellow striped door with the words "Character Prep."
The door wouldn't open at first. I figured this was probably where the costumes were kept, and I definitely wanted a photograph of that twisted, stinking mess. Try as I might, whatever angle or trick I tried, the door wouldn't budge.
That is, until I gave up and started to walk away. That was when there was a slight popping sound, and the door creaked open slowly.
I was just teasing him.
What do you mean?
It was like,
It was just
you want to
being a
open the
little
door?
silly.
Not right now.
Oh, you want to open the door? Oh, like...
Oh, you want to leave now? Okay, I'll open the door for you now.
Okay, playing hard to get? Okay.
Inside the room was completely dark, pitch black. I used the camera flash to look for light switch in the wall by the door, but there's nothing. This dude didn't think of just taking a flashlight?
He's such an amateur. As I made my search, I was jarred out of my sense of excitement by a loud electrical buzz. Rows of lights overhead slowly flashed to life, flickering and fading in and out like the rest I had passed. The room was exactly as I had pictured it. Various Disney costumes hung on the walls, fully put together like strange cartoon cadavers hung from invisible nooses. Dear God Almighty. What I found odd and what I wanted to photograph right away was a Mickey Mouse costume at the center of the room. Unlike the other costumes, it was lying on its back in the center of the floor like a murder victim. The fur on the costume was rotten and shedding, creating bare patches.
It's Mickey Mouse with bald spots.
Mickey Mouse aging 40 years. A 40-year-old Mickey Mouse.
What was even odder, however, was the coloring of the costume. It was like a photo negative of the actual Mickey Mouse. Black where he should be white and white where he should be black. His normally red overalls were light blue.
The sight was off-putting enough that I actually put off photographing the thing until last.
I took a picture of the costume hanging on the walls. Upward angles, downward angles, side shots to show an entire row of frozen putrid cartoon faces, some with plastic eyes and missing.
Then I decided to stage a shot, just one of the bedraggled character heads on the slick, grimy floor.
I reached for the headpiece of a Donald Duck costume and carefully removed it so the thing wouldn't fall apart in my hands.
As I looked into the face of the wide-eyed, moldering head, a large clattering sound made me jump with fright.
I looked down at my feet, and there, between my shoes, was a human skull. It had fallen out of the mascot head and shattered into pieces at my feet. Only the empty face and lower jaw remained, staring up at me. I dropped the duck head immediately, as you'd expect, and moved for the door. And as I stood in the doorway, I looked back to the skull on the floor.
I had to take a picture of it, you know. I had to, for any number of reasons that may seem silly, but only if you didn't think it through.
I want to know what those reasons are, guys.
Yeah, like, wait. It may seem silly only if you think it through.
Only if you don't think it through.
Only if you don't think it through. So, if you thought it through, it would make sense.
Yeah.
I need him to provide,
I need him
receipts.
to say.
I need him to tell us why.
I need proof of what happened, especially if Disney was gonna somehow make this go away. I had no doubt in my mind right from the start that even if it was just gross negligence, that's really bad negligence, wow, Disney was responsible for this.
And that's when Mickey, that photo negative opposite Mickey in the middle of the floor, started to get up.
He was like, oh, he found the skull. Time for my moment.
He triggered an active event.
First sitting up, then climbing to his feet, the Mickey Mouse costume, or whoever was inside of it, stood there at the center of the room, fake face just staring directly at me as I mumbled no over and over and over.
With shaking hands, a violently thrashing heart, and legs that had once again turned to jelly, I managed to lift the camera and aim it at the opposite creature now quietly sizing me up.
The digital camera screen displayed only dead pixels in the shape of the thing. It was a perfect silhouette of the Mickey costume. As the camera moved in my unsteady hands, the dead pixels spread, marring the screen wherever Mickey's outline moved to.
Then the camera died, went blank and quiet and broken.
I raised my hands once again to the Mickey Mouse costume.
I need to do a Mickey Mouse impression, don't I?
I would love for that to be the case. Please do.
Hey!
It said in a hushed, perverted, but perfectly executed Mickey Mouse voice.
Wanna see my head come off? Wanna see my head come off?
Is that Mickey?
What is...
It started to pull at its own head, working its clumsy, glove-clad fingers around its neck with clawing, impatient movements, similar to a wounded man trying to pull himself free of a predator's jaws.
As it worked its digits into its neck, so much blood.
So much thick, chunky, yellow blood.
I turned away as I heard a sickening tearing of flesh and cloth, only caring about getting away. Above the doorway out of this room, I saw the final message clawed into the metal with bone or fingernails.
Abandoned by God.
I never got a picture out of the camera. I never wrote the blog entry about it.
Except for this, I guess.
After I ran from that place, fled for my sanity, if not my very life, I knew why Disney didn't want anyone to know about this place.
They didn't want anyone like me getting in.
It didn't want anything like that getting out.
And that's the end.
And that's the end. I think, what's your thoughts on the yellow blood? Like,
Cheese.
Oh god. Mickey Mouse bleeds cheese.
He eats so much cheese, his
His blood turned into cheese. Okay.
Alright, final thoughts on this story, I guess.
Final thoughts. This was
Goofy.
silly goofy.
I wonder how this person came up with this idea. We were just looking at Mickey Mouse one day and I can make this shit weird.
Yeah. I think it's like the perversion of your childhood.
Oh, gross.
Right? Like it's take your childhood, turn it scary. I hope you enjoyed that. Let's make a moral out of this. What's like a moral that the kids listening could learn?
Don't visit abandoned places. 1, by yourself, and 2, with no flashlight.
Don't work for Disney.
Also don't work for Disney. They're kind of horrible.
Exactly.
You have been Davina.
I have been Davina, and you have been Jamie.
Yeah.
Bye. Two Peas in a Podcast is an extension of the Pen and Palette magazine, voiced by Jamie L. and Davina J, with music by our dear buddy Ethan H. and background ambience by Yevhenii Kovalenko from PIxabay. The story read in today's episode is Abandoned by Disney by Slimebeast. Like scary stories? Check out a column dedicated to creepy folklore around the world on penandpalette.com to see some cool animations and learn something new. Maybe I'm not your boss. This can be found in a link in our description or through pen-and-palette.com. If you were so kind to stay to the end, let us know by commenting the first scary story you've heard ever. Y'all are so amazing. Have a great day and bye!